Hello. Welcome to the Asian American Writers Workshop, first ever virtual event. I am deliberate and afraid of nothing, poetry, prose, and protest with Mizna authors. We're going to be creating a live edited accessibility document that you can find in the comments section. And it's also at AAWW.org / which is the one going this way, poetry, prose, virtual. My name is Bushra Rehman, and I am guest curator this spring for the Asian American Writers Workshop. As you can imagine, like many organizations, we've been trying to figure out how we can continue programming, continuing bring our communities together. In New York City, we're at the epicenter. Some of us are already dealing with grief, with a lot of fear and uncertainty. And we had chosen this title, I Am Deliberate and Afraid of Nothing. It is from an Audre Lorde poem, New Year's Day. And it's the theme of the Poetry Coalition's March programming, which is a coalition of amazing organizations, which Mizna is a part of, and the Asian American Writers Workshop is a part of, along with many other fabulous organizations It has been an honor to work with Mizna on this event. We have scrambled to figure out how to make this virtual, and it's just been amazing to work with them, and I'm very, very grateful. I want to read a little bit from a Mizna writer right now, Roy Guzman, in honor of this event and a parallel event that took place in Minnesota. Mizna writers were asked to think on this theme, I am deliberate and afraid of nothing. And this is what Guzman wrote. In the face of fear, to be deliberate means to have a strategy that considers care, self-care perhaps, and the drive to never lose sight of one's liberation. I consider fear within my plan. Fear becomes an elastic element within that plan. Insofar as I am deliberate with my fear, fear cannot control me. For Mizna and the Asian American Writers Workshop, reimagining this in-person public reading as a virtual event is our way of being deliberate in the face of the unknown and of our fears. It's a way to not lose sight of our individual and our collective liberation. In a time when our communities are more vulnerable than ever, we know it's essential for us to come together, to continue to support our artists, to gather distance from each other, but close together. As I mentioned, we in New York City are in the epicenter, and with the kind of disastrous leader we have in the White House, who puts money before human lives, we wanted to stand tonight together with Mizna in our humanity and put our stories and our lives first. In case you're not familiar with the Asian American Writers Workshop, and Mizna is going to speak about their organization, we were founded in 1991 and are dedicated to the creation, development, publication, and dissemination of Asian diasporic literature. We're an alternative literary arts space in New York City, an incubator for emerging writers, and a sanctuary space for readers and ideas. We are a community of activists who use our artistry to advocate for and center the voices and ideas on the margins. At a time when migrants, women, people of color, Muslims, and LGBTQ folks are specifically vulnerable, we will continue to offer a new countercultural public space in which to imagine a more just future. Tonight's reading will feature Mizna authors Andrea Abi Karam, who you can actually see people. You can raise your hand. Andrea, Romaissaa Benzizoune, Shammi Ali Nayeem, and one of our authors, Susan Mwadi Daraj, was not able to join, but you will find her work along with tonight's readers and additional Mizna authors at the margins, and you'll see a link for that as well. Before turning over the mic, I'd like to thank Lana and Nyla at Mizna and all of Mizna, the Poetry Coalition, everyone at the Asian American Writers Workshop, Tiffany Lay, Rob Bruce Lee, who's been working tirelessly to make this virtual program possible. And now it's my honor to introduce Executive and Artistic Director of Mizna, Lana Barkawi.
Thank you. Thanks for bearing with me as I unmute my mic and get used to all of this. Thank you, Bushra, for that beautiful introduction. This is a time of so much fear and uncertainty. I really hope that folks who are joining us, joining this live stream of this event, are safe and are taking care of yourselves emotionally and physically. I want to echo what Bushra said. Our hearts are really with the most vulnerable who are disproportionately affected by the global pandemic. On behalf of the board and the small staff at Mizna, we're happy to be in this affirming collaboration with the Asian American Writers Workshop, an organization that I've admired for so long. When we realized that we couldn't do this event live as we had planned in New York, one of the things we tried to keep in mind is the commitment we've made to artists, especially given that so many artists are being hit hard economically right now, having readings and performances canceled. So continuing this event as a live stream allows us to experiment with new ways of presenting literary readings, and it also preserves this platform or creates a new platform for artists to share their work and, importantly, to collect their honoraria, to sell their books, to get invited to future gigs, etc. So please make sure to follow the work of the incredible artists reading tonight. And if you have the means, please buy a copy of their books for those who have books published. To say a little bit more about Mizna, Mizna is a critical platform for Arab and other Southwest Asian and North African writers, filmmakers, and artists. Mizna is a space for our communities' ideas and creativity, a shelter from the framing of our communities by mainstream U.S. and other Western discourse, where we're represented in stereotyped, flattening, and vilifying ways. At Mizna, artists present their work, tell their stories on their own terms. For more than 20 years, we've been committed to centering our voices and honoring our complexities. Since 1999, we've been publishing a literary and art journal of Arab and other SWANA writing, Mizna, Prose, Poetry, and Art, Exploring Arab America. This is our most recent issue. In Minneapolis, we also produce the Twin Cities Arab Film Festival featuring debut screenings of indie films, and we present classes, workshops, and other projects to build community and nurture artists. As Bushra mentioned, this event is part of National Poetry Coalition programming. The Poetry Coalition is a national network of poetry organizations that both the Writers Workshop and Mizna are part of. Each March, members are invited to create programming around a theme that the coalition decides on together. And this year's theme of poetry and protest, as Bushra mentioned, comes from an Audre Lorde poem, New Year's Day, which ends with the lines, "I am deliberate and afraid of nothing." For us at Mizna, it also dovetailed beautifully with artwork by the Sudanese artist Ala Satir, whose ongoing project, We Are the Revolution, was featured in the last journal issue. This is her work on the cover. So we invited these incredible lineup of our authors to contend with these lines and these ideas, and I'm so thrilled to have them with us. These writers have been published in our pages over the years and represent the arc of our 20 plus years of publishing. In addition to the writers who are reading this evening, it's important to add that we've been lucky to publish writing from our fabulous MC, Bushra Rehman, and the bibliography of the issues where all the authors' writing appears, including Susan Moadi Daraj, who can't be with us. All of their issues can be found at the end of the accompanying accessibility document that Bushra referenced. And I think it might be in the comments of the live stream. I'll repeat the URL now in case it's helpful to those joining. The accessibility document can be found at aaww.org/poetryprotestvirtual. I want to thank the lovely team at the Writers Workshop for being such wonderful partners. I'm so glad that to Tiffany Lay for initiating the idea of the collaboration, to Bushra Rehman, Rob Roosley, Jyoti Natarajan, and the rest of the team, as well as to my colleague, Nyla Taman, who's working behind the scenes editing the captioned copy of this live stream. The event is supported in part by the Academy of American Poets with funds from the Andrew W. Mellon Foundation and also supported by a National Endowment for the Arts grant to Mizna. And before I introduce our first reader, I promise I'll get to it, I wanted to share a line from Khalil Gibran that is the title of a different program currently at Mizna, a visual art and film project that we've been touring to different parts of Minnesota. And the title of that is the Gibran lines, "Let there be spaces in your togetherness." We settled on this as the title for the project because of the way it signals that we can be simultaneously holding complexity as well as solidarity in our communities. And in this time of social distancing, the lines, "Let there be spaces in your togetherness," take on new meaning. And I'm so moved to be distantly together with all of you tonight. Now, I'm so happy to introduce our first reader, Andrea Abi Karam. Nyla and I, my colleague Nyla and I, were lucky to see Andrea recently in San Antonio at the literary conference AWP, where their gorgeous book quickly sold out at our table. Andrea Abi Karam is an Arab-American, genderqueer, punk poet, performer, cyborg, writing on the art of killing bros, the intricacies of cyborg bodies, trauma, and delayed healing. Their chapbook, The Aftermath, published by Commune Editions, attempts to queer Fanon's vision of how poetry fails to inspire revolution. Andrea's first book, Extra Transmission, from Kelsey Street Press, is a poetic critique of the U.S. military's role in the war on terror. Please help me in welcoming to the virtual stage, Andrea Abi Karam.
Hello. Thank you so much, Bushra and Lana, for that amazing introduction. And I'm so excited to be here and read with you, Romaissaa and Shammi Ali. I had the pleasure of launching my book last year at AAWW in May, and so it's great to be back, and I'm a big fan of all the work at Mizna. So I'm going to read, I didn't want to do the same thing that I did last year, so I'm going to read a little bit from my book, Extra Transmission, then I'm going to read a new piece called Daddy's Sandman, and I'm going to just go straight through everything. And thank you so much. I used to work in a lab with rats for a long time, a memory lab. We were trying to figure out what part of their tiny brains could remember how to navigate space, what told them which way to go. A model for humans, a model for curing Alzheimer's, a model for navigation, a model for humanless navigation, a model for drones. I quit shortly after the lab got funding from the U.S. Department of Defense. Did you know that if you're a combat veteran with PTSD, you can get a non-profit that is funded by the CIA to give you a dog? I want a dog. Check 1, check 2, check 3, can you hear me? Check 4, is the room empty? Check 5, can you hear me? Check 6, oh well. Check 7, my story is empty anyway. Check 8, lights off. Check 9, good night. Check 10, next on CNN, a poetry of directness. Kill all the noise bros who move to Brooklyn and tell everyone desperately that the noise they're making is the only thing they believe in. Kill all the bro poets. Actually, you know what? Kill all the bros. Kill all the power dynamics in the room. Kill all the power dynamics in the white room. Kill all the power dynamics in all the rooms. Pull them down by their greasy cables. Get your hands dirty. Kill all the hierarchies of power of who is publishing who and who is fucking who and who they fucked before they got published. Publish who they fucked, or don't. Kill the nonprofit board of poets who scheduled the endless summer reading during Dyke March this Saturday. And kill the sociality that makes queers feel excluded and that makes the orgy dangerous for our bodies and that makes you who to select eye contact with and who to ignore on alternating nights, and which beer to schedule on which day and which bar to go to after which reading. And kill the system that was designed to alienate everyone from each other and that caused this desperate sociality to emerge, and kill the system of gendered power that makes it so hard to inhabit every moment in my own skin, to know how to detect each buzz like counting the number of trains that pass at night, and kill the language of avoidance that made it so hard for me to write this. Check 11. Is anybody out there on the surface of the signature injury? On the surface. Circle one option below. Mild, moderate, severe. On the assembly line to American nationalism, little clicks along the conveyor belt. As of 2017, 375, 230 U.S. troops had sustained a traumatic brain injury, or TBI. TBIs are the signature injury of the War on Terror. They are severe concussions where past memories are erased and daily memory continues to be difficult. You're in an armored vehicle somewhere in Iraq or Afghanistan, on a desert road, not a lot of cover, and your vehicle gets hit by a rocket-propelled grenade, or you drive over the tripwire for an improvised explosive device. There is a blast. You are thrown into the wall or the roof or the ground. Your body hits the wall or the roof or the ground hard. With force, bones break. Your brain moves forward and back against the inside of your skull, like all those really sick drunk driving movies where no one survives that you have to watch in driver's ed when you're 16. It's like that, except you survive the blast. Get up and run. Your body survives, but now you have to cope with becoming a new person. Select a PDA from the moving belt. Slide the PDA all the way into the port. It should not hurt. It should feel comfortable. It should feel natural. There may be initial misfirings. You may see scans of the calendar behind the eyes. They will feel like dreams. You won't miss any appointments. And remember, it's just a prototype. You will not be satisfied. Head-on collision, double vision. This is not, I forgot my wallet at home during Mercury retrograde. This is not, oh, I forgot you two even dated. Sorry if it's awk now that we're fucking. This is not, I don't remember spraining my ankle because I was wasted, but now it hurts sometimes. This is not textbook PTSD. This is the end of the canon in an attempt to adapt in a world that constantly fails me. This is the end of a person and the beginning of a malfunctioning cyborg, an irreversible detachment from my body, a walking ghost. At what point did you realize there is something very, very wrong? What you can't see can't hurt you. Do you remember the blast? There are stories of machines that enter bodies, machines that enter armor, pierce the skin, machines that force their way through, machines that force their way through boundaries, through borders, through armored shells, through skin, just a few scratches and bruises, bump on the head, nothing major, right major, yes major, right, left major, keep moving, keep driving, keep fighting, worry about the bruises later. There is a blast, there is an impact, there is the wall or the roof or the ground. There is a blast, an impact, a force against you. There is the wall, the roof, the ground, the sharp metal edge. There is a blast, and how to become a new glitch, a new disruption. I can yell at you all I want, but still nobody else knows what's going on. I just need to find my words. Teach me how to remember, how to become a new person. Teach me how to not get lost in the maze. Teach me how to become a new rat. On the outside, looking in, it was just a little bit dangerous. On the outside, looking in, is this what you signed up for? 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 A ghost that would live on and on. I am choosing elements from a source document. I am obsessing over so many things. I am trying to think about body autonomy. I am trying to get off. I am trying to short out. There is a blast. There is an impact. There is the wall, the information, the electricity, the shrapnel, the bodies, the feeling. There is the sharp metal edge. There is a blast. And we all melted into hot water just before the boiling point. All hot water and skin and glasses of champagne, echoes of what we took from Whole Foods at the march so many times before. This is a different kind of march. We don't steal anything, just space on the street temporarily. That's not even ours to take, really. But we take it back from the city temporarily, overflow and widen the vastness of us uncontainable by curb or infrastructure stripes or cops. We cascade through blocks and hills and 5-point intersections, heads thrown back in pleasure temporarily at the sight of our endlessness, wrapping up the foggy city wide with desire. Maybe it's candy or maraschino cherry. Maybe it came not from the ground, but a factory transported through the veins of global capitalism to bob in each of our glasses, filled with champagne we used to steal when Whole Foods was still just a proud grocery store before it became Amazon foot soldier. Maybe it's candy or maraschino stolen and carried through TSA. Too much liquid oozes from my filaments. Too many plastic surgery overwritten anatomy. But we still made it to the party. We knew where it was without maps or cell service, drawn toward chain to magnet. We know our ends are limited. Daddy Sandman clicks through summer, so steady. Traces of pathways intersect, outer layers of collision, new circuits carved into skin, a freshly drawn geography, situationist sketch, thick scabs, more permanent than what Daddy Sandman leaves us with. Traces of desires, aftermath, sternal molds, complete taxonomy of each peak and every jagged edge that adorn your hands, all tearing at each other. Get a little closer. Remove the millimeters of distance skin affords. We exceed the limits of Daddy Sandman's precise rhythms, forego sleep and eating. There's no time for maintenance when it will all be over so soon. Quick visit to our fantasy hard drives, suspend certain needs, merge onto freeway, overdrive nerves sparking, network visible from within, bright links in the night. We exist at the edges of this magnetism for quite some time, occasionally stepping toward temporary network field, abandoned building, freeway, aneurysm where our fantasies are held, and finally into rupture. It manifests first as a lot of texting and a lot of partying, a lot of incisions on the surface, splitting it open to the layer beneath where our connections to each other become more visible. Turn on the black light, turn off the overhead, cables threaded underfoot, bones and feet adjusting to the interruptions. Turn off the scene light, turn on the stage lights. Sharing is different than what people take from you. Sharing is different than what the takes from you. Ligaments tighten to calcification against the brace of impact and splinter away from the concrete center. B, noise, clog, Big Daddy, mainframe. B, noise, short out the Sandman, widen the clicks between moments. Skywriting that says, we want more than one weekend a year where a mass shooting might occur. Project on the side of the stadium. The way you fuck is boring, but you still don't get to watch. Write in wet concrete, kick cops out of pride, or better yet, we make a world without them. Draw in the sand on Fire Island, R.I.P. Kevin Killian. Spray paint fucking everywhere. Queer liberation means a world without prisons. Dig into the surface of my sternum. Hold my hand through the flashbangs, and I'll hold yours through the flogging. Leather with metal-studded edges leave nice purple bruises. Gridded nodes glow. Mathematical array of desire and resistance. I buckle my bulletproof studded vest and melt into the mass. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Andrea. And if you are just joining us, this is the Asian American Writer Workshop and Mizna's collaboration, a virtual event. I am deliberate and afraid of nothing, poetry, prose, and protest, a reading of Mizna authors. Our second reader for tonight is Romaissaa Benzizoune. Romaissaa is from New York City and from Morocco. Her personal essays have appeared in outlets including BuzzFeed, McSweeney's, Teen Vogue, and the New York Times. Her current obsession is TikTok, the app. Welcome, Romaissaa.
I was muted. Sorry. I was just saying I didn't know that I wrote that because I'm pretty sure that there's only an app. Like, I don't think there's TikTok, the website. Anyway, the first piece I'm reading tonight, I was going to read the short story that I recently wrote for Mizna, but I thought I would read an essay that I never published about a moment that really reflects being very deliberate and very, very afraid. So I will just start reading. When I was in the 7th grade, at the crossroads of so many insecurities, I had a favorite outfit. It was orange like autumn, a pair of shorts and a tank top. It was one I never actually wore because it wasn't hijab appropriate. I did wear it in front of the mirror at home, though. I vividly remember wearing it in my parents' bedroom, looking at my reflection. I remember it vividly because this was one of the few times I thought I looked good in that period of my life. I had done all the necessary things, counted out the 7 almonds for lunch and starved myself before bed, practically tied myself to one of the treadmills at the gym. And it paid off, I suppose. This isn't an essay about eating disorders, but when I sit down to write about the hijab, I realize that I can't do so without writing about my self-image, which makes sense because when I was a hijabi, I think I was obsessed with being one. The hijab was the main thing I saw in the mirror because it was the main thing that everyone else saw, the red A, if you will. When I was in 7th grade, at the crossroads of so many insecurities, I hated my body and loved cosmic brownies and merely tolerated the book Catcher in the Rye. Publicly, at least. I had an image to maintain, and it involved beefing with all the white male narrators on the syllabus. It seemed to be an all-or-nothing sort of commitment. But I loved Catcher in the Rye, because I was ugly and in middle school, and because I've always known good writing when I've seen it. When I looked at myself in the mirror wearing that orange set, born again skinny, a brown Lolita in orange, I had a strange sequence of thoughts. If I could wear this outside, things would be different. Boys would like me. I would be popular. It's my most desperately middle school moment, and it still makes me cringe. How unoriginal of me to have wanted to be popular. How cliche of me to have wanted to please boys. How traumatizing it must have been for me to even think these thoughts, middle school radical that I thought I was. One that kept up with current events from the New York Times and the print version, no less, because I respected the long-standing institution of American journalism. I think I genuinely considered my physical copy of the Sunday Times the last bulwark between humanity and a ravenous digital age. Honestly, the years during which I wore the hijab blur together. When I call my parents to tell them that I've decided to take it off, over a decade after I first put it on, they ask me, baffled, when I started feeling so unsatisfied, and I don't have an answer. I started so young and continued wearing it for so long, and one day I stopped thinking about it. I can't identify a single moment when I stopped wearing the hijab with religious intent, but I can identify many moments when I used the hijab to hide my insecurities instead. Modesty was as convenient an excuse as any for not really living. Of course, there was a lot of pride there, a lot of protection, and I'm grateful about what the hijab has taught me about the male gaze, how differently straight men treat you when you're wearing a scarf and when you're wearing a miniskirt, how shallow their world can be, how hilariously fulcrumed on beauty. I still see myself as the hijabi I was. I will always have her shrewd perspective, formed over the course of a decade plus of being desexualized and over-politicized and mostly invisible to the same people who now want to grab a drink sometime. Taking off the hijab was much more difficult than deciding to put it on in the first place. The hardest part was following through when I made that mental decision, when I suddenly decided, to borrow from Sartre, that I was living in bad faith. I knew that people would look at me and think that I was liberated. I didn't want to explain myself anymore because that was all I ever did as a hijabi, and I wanted to break the cycle where my physicality was a public affair. I was so tired of defending myself at the cost of myself, and it struck me as terribly cruel that the hijab would continue to define me by nature of its absence after I took it off. So I stalled for a whole year. I'm going to graduate from college this year. Digitally, it seems, and I'm rereading Catcher in the Rye. There's a scene near the beginning that has always stuck with me. Holden's roommate is about to go on a date with Jane, who is waiting downstairs for him, and who Holden has known forever. Jane Gallagher, Jesus. I couldn't get her off my mind. I really couldn't. I ought to go down and say hello to her at least. Why the hell don't ya, instead of keep saying it? Strad later said. I walked over to the window, but you couldn't see out of it. It was so steamy from all the heat in the can. I'm not in the mood right now, I said. This passage is remarkable because of how well executed it is, how many times Holden repeats himself all the pent-up longing. His desperate attempts always to convince people of things, to convince himself of things. It's not just that Holden is misunderstood, it's also that he misunderstands himself. The way that he is getting in the way, the traumas that he cannot really control, This passage is so vulnerable that it hurts, makes you angry when you read it, even the second time around. The year when I was wearing the hijab without wanting to, last year, my year of stalling, is a lot like that passage. In the aftermath of my decision, we still make circular revolutions around the sun. But much is new to me, and I feel a sort of rebirth in the fishnet stockings I order, the first denim cutoffs I wear, the yellow scarf I start using to put my hair up. It's like coming of age all over again, but minus the weird and painful and hungry parts. In the first couple of weeks, I stopped to look at my reflection a lot because I'm not used to seeing myself with a halo of curls that pulls in different directions and takes on different shapes. It's like a temporary dysphoria when your reflection changes so suddenly with such dramatic social and racial implications, and it's fascinating. Because, well, things are different now. Boys like me more. I've yet to tell about the popularity bit. I have new things now. Bad hair days, 90s hair clips, eco-gel and plastic tubs. I have new experiences now too. Being seen as a woman, a real woman, anonymous, a real woman, American, with sexual desires. And I'll be the first to admit that it's easier not being immediately coded as Muslim. There's a sadness that comes with this realization, the way I probably put more people at ease. That was the first thing. Thanks for listening, everyone. I didn't say this at the beginning, but I'm really happy to be here. This is so much better than my Zoom classes. I will leave you with a poem, and I'm not really a poet, but I was journaling the other day because I've been doing that a lot in this madness, as I'm sure a lot of you are. And I realized when I looked up from the page that I'd written this poem about things I missed. Also, thank you, Sabina, for reading it in advance of this. You're a great friend. Anyway, the poem is called A New York Breakup. Whenever we hung out, it was 60 degrees in January, and the streets would shine, glisten like grass in the wet morning of somewhere else. Every gum-stained porch became a hearth, every parking space a prairie. Every 7-Eleven was a figment of God's divine will, walls and beams and counters that sprouted from below. I imagine the birth of this city, plaster running up like vines, cement churning with promise, car exhaust so sweet. I hope that the growth was steady over time, like love dependable, rhythmic, blue if it couldn't be green. In my memory, he turns concrete into jungle and metal into flesh. The car he drives becomes a dragon. Coffee shop doors are really curtains made of wheat. We run through them, the stalks stretching above our heads, and we trample the dead ones under our feet, laughing. He orders an iced coffee that I will end up drinking, almond milk, of course. Through the sheaths of gold, we reach the 1, 2, 3 line. It's a river, straight and true, crystalline, not a lily pad in sight, not a fleck of greenish algae or mold anywhere. Gently, he pushes me onto a wooden raft, and I wave goodbye. I swipe my MetroCard and float away on Christopher Street. Thank you.
Thank you, Romaissaa. That was beautiful. If you're just joining us, I'm Lana Barkawi with Mizna. This is a collaboration between Mizna and the Asian American Writers Workshop. It's a poetry reading titled "I Am Deliberate and Afraid of Nothing: Poetry, Prose, and Protest," a virtual reading. I'm really honored to introduce our last reader tonight, Shammi Ali Nayeem, author. So I'm so excited to introduce Shammi Ali. We've been publishing Shammi Ali's work for many years, and it's really wonderful to have her be part of this reading. So, author of the poetry collection City of Pearls, Shammi Ali Nayeem is a Muslim Indian American poet and artist of Hyderabadi descent, a former public interest lawyer supporting economic justice for survivors of family and intimate partner violence. Shammi Ali is recipient of the Loft Literary Center's Spoken Word Immersion Fellowship. Please help me in welcoming Shammi Ali Nayeem.
Thank you so much, Lana, and thank you to Bushra as well, and Asian American Writers Workshop and Mizna for bringing us all together. With the poem Invocation. My dad walks with me in the mornings. The sun is new. Even in the cold, I can feel him in unknown spaces and collapse. If I were sad, he'd bring me fruit and water. If I were scared, he'd listen and offer counsel. He would give me a poem. He would tell me a joke. And I would know that he was there. I've never seen my dad cry, but I have seen him leave this world. I felt him as a machine sang a flat note parallel to a digital line on a screen. I reached for his hand. My dad walks with me in the mornings. He taught me how to plant things. He showed me how to herd sheep, to pay attention to life force, listen to the earth. He would tell me, this is but a moment. He would tell me, you're a good mom. He would show me maps in the sky and how evergreens never lose their emerald. He would read Ayatul Kursi. It would smell of safety and rosewater. He would say, Alif, Lam, Mim, and I would know that he was there. He would say, this world is full of secrets. He would say, listen. This next poem is titled Show Us Your Papers, and I'm dedicating it to all the victims of the pogroms that have taken place in Delhi. Massive violence, people who have lost their homes and are now in camps, while India is in a full lockdown because of the coronavirus. Show us your papers. What paper could prove every buried ancestor, every story on each brick, every seed that became the tree, every street's ghost? In this country, no evidence of humanity is left. No certificate, no soul. In this country, papers become dust, become soot, become flooded, and disintegrate into nothing. In this country, 201 million people were born before nation state, before borders, generations of Muslims that never left. In this country, stars witness Muslim, Dalit, and Adivasi births in nameless clinics, huts, rooms, no papers to prove the marrow and soul of a land. In this country, paperless people of the earth say, this place is also mine. Can you not see we birthed it? What paper could prove umbilical cord to earth, memorized forest, an index of the river's moods, the land's fingerprint on each rib cage? You'll have an opportunity to donate towards supporting some of the victims of that extreme violence in Delhi right now via Equality Labs at the end of my poetry set. This goes out to everyone that is experiencing deep transformation, transmutation, moth. It isn't in the wings or the flying where freedom takes place. It is in the quiet cosmos of your unbecoming. In a case of silk, your essence is protected, while imaginal discs shift, molt into mystery, cave in. May a song be an anchor while your body falls into itself. May you find beauty in the reconstruction. Do you remember your simultaneous origin and conclusion? Do you remember how once in a cocoon you met yourself? This last piece is called Between You and You. Somewhere on a cliff in the Himalayas, you smelled the fragrance of your own mortality. You found your reflection in the mud. You honored the way you loved, the way your heart broke, how life became living, became generative, regenerative, magic, mimic nature, experienced itself. When the boulders lodged in your spine finally turned to dust, when you learned how to stand straight, when you laid flowers at the entrance to your womb, when a thread of light lit a river through you, a conduit between Earth's core and infinity. Here, you kiss the middle of your own palm. Above the lifeline, below the heartline. You experienced how spirit rests in the colors at the edge of breath. Meridians, small portals to no space or time. You stopped longing, wishing, caring. Became bone, blood, breath. A heart of 4 chambers in release. Thank you so much. And if you can, please do support Equality Labs at this time to really send some critical support to so many people in great need. Thank you.
Hello. Is the image of Equality Labs up? Hi, everyone. Hi, I'm back. This is Bushra, guest curator at the Asian American Writers Workshop, and what you've just seen is a collaboration of Mizna and the Asian American Writers Workshop, our first ever virtual event. I am deliberate and not afraid of nothing. Poetry, prose, and protest, a reading of Mizna authors. I want to thank Mizna. I want to thank our amazing authors, Andrea Abi Karam, Romaissaa Benzizoune, Shammi Ali Nayeem. We are partners with Greenlight Bookstores, and they had ordered everyone's books. So please, even though their storefront is closed, they're based in Brooklyn, you can order on all our authors' books online. Also, all the authors' books work is in the Mizna journals. So you can go to the Mizna website and the Mizna store. You can get cool T-shirts as well, which is my favorite thing. I like to wear Mizna T-shirts. So please go to Mizna's website and go to the Asian American Writers Workshop website. Read our online journal, Margins. We are still actively publishing, accepting submissions, promoting new work every day. Follow us and follow Mizna on all the different social media things that exist and probably will come into existence in this time. Let me see. I want to make sure I didn't forget anything. We want to thank the Poetry Coalition. I want to thank the staff at the Writers Workshop, especially our new director, Jeffrey Nadine, Margins, editor, Jyoti Natarajan, Rob Brucely, who's been doing all the video tech, Tiffany Lay, who is the best programming colleague ever. And I just want to encourage you all to tell people you love that you love them, create art and share it. And don't forget to wash your hands. And this is me, Bushra Rehman, guest curator, the Writers Workshop, signing off for now. You can, one more thing, you can find this video on our YouTube channel, and also it'll be available on our Facebook page. So do share. Thank you to our writers. Let's give them another hand. Thank you so much, everyone. Okay, bye-bye.